Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My conversation this week is with Dr. Brandy Baxter, an accredited financial counselor and owner of Living Abundantly. She encourages individuals and organizations to achieve their full potential through a unique blend of faith, finance, and foresight. Brandy guides clients on their journey to financial freedom, helping them build sustainable cash flow strategies that align with their values. In our chat today, Brandy uncovers the crucial role that financial coaches and counselors play in helping clients overcome the psychological and emotional barriers that often prevent them from implementing the financial plans they create with their advisors. She's sharing lots of examples from her practice to demonstrate how financial coaching creates that space for discovery where clients can unpack why they aren't following through on their stated goals that they do with their advisors. As someone who has seen my own financial advisor clients benefit greatly from adding coaching support to their practices, I really loved Brandy's insights on how these relationships can create a more comprehensive and holistic experience for clients. So whether you're an advisor looking to better serve clients who struggle with implementation or a financial coach seeking partnership opportunities, this conversation offers really valuable perspectives on how different financial professionals can work together as stewards of their knowledge and skills rather than as competitors. So without further ado, let's dive in. Brandy, I'm so excited to have you on the Finance Marketing Podcast today. How are you?
I am doing great, Hillary. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So I would love to start if you would just tell us a little bit about who you are, what it is you do, how you got into this crazy world of money, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I am officially a Dr. Brandy Baxter. All my friends call me Brandy, and I am a financial counselor and a financial coach. But I'm also an accredited financial counselor with AFCPE, the Association of Financial Counseling, Planning, and Education, which is a nationally recognized organization that certifies financial counselors so that we can bring professional experience and education to our clients. And so I am delighted to say that this year, 2025, I'm serving as board president for AFCPE. So I'm like totally invested in the organization. But what I do professionally is I work with clients, particularly couples, who are navigating this, what we call sandwich generation. They have children under the age of 18 and they have aging parents who some of them may be living independently, some of them may be living with them. And they're trying to figure out, how do I navigate all these priorities? Saving for college, saving for retirement, supporting my parents. And so I work with them on understanding and navigating cash flow so that they understand how money is moving in and out of their household so they can make informed decisions about their future.
I love that. And I know this generation. I'm a part of this generation. It is, yes, and it is so stressful.
It is. And honestly, that's what got me into the work, just navigating our own family dynamic and the lessons that I was learning. I worked with a nonprofit a few years ago in their seniors program, providing financial education for those who were coming to receive food from the food bank. And
Mm,
that was the toughest summer for me. It just put front and center the importance of helping families navigate these challenges. And so previously I had only worked with couples just in general, but I really started narrowing down on this niche and connecting with people who I could personally identify with because I know that challenge. My
mm,
daughters are 13 and soon to be 15. And although my parents and my in-laws are living independently, we're now having conversations around money and the cost of living that's increasing, and what does that look like for someone on a fixed income, and
mm.
medical costs are rising. And so as I'm having these conversations, it started naturally just flowing into the conversations that I was having with my clients, and I realized that this is the audience that I want to serve.
I love that so much. I think that's the most powerful niche that you can have is when you bring your own experiences and you can relate to the people that you serve.
Absolutely.
So, well, what I am really excited to talk to you about today is where I think the financial counselors and financial coaches fit into these centers of influence or these network kind of partnerships that already exist between financial advisors and CPAs and estate planning attorneys and all of these things. I've been hearing a lot more talk about now there are really great relationships being formed between these professionals and also financial counselors and coaches. And I actually have a client who they are financial advisors. They're growing a really great firm in the Coeur d'Alene area of Idaho. And they just hired a financial coach to be part of their team so that she could provide a lot of the behavioral support that their clients really needed and wanted. So I love that there are partnerships like these happening, but I think there's also so much opportunity for more of these partnerships to happen. So could we start by talking about maybe what it is that financial counselors and coaches do differently than these other professionals and why that's such an important piece of someone's financial puzzle and well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about, oh, one of my favorite resources was created by Sage Financial Solutions, which is called the financial continuum.
Mm,
And so when you see the different service providers in the financial space, from the financial educator to the financial counselor, the financial coach, the financial planner, the financial therapist, you realize that while we all share the central thread of personal finance,
mm,
the tools that we bring to the client engagement differ depending on our specialty. So, as a financial counselor, the tools that I'm bringing to the client engagement generally involve around education as well as co creating with them a plan going forward. We look at what are their big goals and developing a plan of how they want to get there.
mm,
My role as a counselor usually is kind of telling my client, hey, you need to figure out your 401k. You need to get these resources, like really kind of prescriptive. Some of them, they just don't know the importance of, getting a handle on their 401k. Where are those documents located, and understanding what's included in those documents. So my role as the counselor usually is more, like I say, prescriptive. I'm
mm,
prescribing for them what those specific steps are. My role as a coach, however, is usually a little bit more around this mindset of what are the things that are blocking you from accomplishing what you believe are important to you. And in some cases, helping clients even explore what is it that they really want to do with their money. So
mm,
much of what we put on ourselves as individuals is based on our environment, is based on the messages and media, it's based on other people's goals and ambitions. And so I found a lot of clients sometimes just need to work with a coach to figure out what's truly important to me
mm,
and to give themselves permission to go after that,
mm,
recognizing that their journey may not look like everyone else's. And then I have great friends who are financial planners. And so, what the tools that the financial planner brings to the engagement are the strategy around that longer term. How do we fund your future, if you will? So,
mhm,
they will bring the tools that can help do things that my brain cannot do, and they can bring the tools and the resources to kind of run the projections and simulations of, this is the lifestyle you want to have at retirement. Well, here's what it's going to cost, and let's build a plan to get there so that you can afford and fund that future. So the different tools all come together to support the client in a holistic way, recognizing that there are going to be different nuances depending on what that client's goals and objectives are at that session. And that's
mm.
why when we talked about having a coach as part of the financial planning firm, a lot of firms are moving in that direction because they see the value add. The skills and the tools that the planner brings are not the same that a coach will bring, but yet everyone working together can support that client in ultimately reaching that goal of having a financially stable and sustainable future.
Right, right. Well, I would love to circle back. You mentioned something that you do as a coach is you help clients kind of untangle what they think they should be doing versus what they really want to be doing. Can you provide an example maybe of work you've done with a specific client, or do any scenarios come to mind?
Oh, 100%. So, most recently, I had a client who the husband wanted to save for retirement, and the wife wanted to save for kids' college.
Mm.
And so just navigating that, and during the coaching session, I approach coaching very curious. And
Mm.
so I found it odd that they were just so strongly on opposite ends. But I was very curious, like as a couple, how has this conversation not come up? And what has happened when it did come up?
Mm.
So I started coaching with the wife around what was important to her and her values, and discovered that for her, education was the key to where she was, right?
Mm.
It was the pathway to financial success for her. And so she wanted to make sure that she provided that for her children. Similarly, the husband, although he had also gone to college, he saw his parents and grandparents struggling financially in retirement. And
Mm.
so for him, the motive was, I need to make sure we sock enough money away for retirement so that we don't have to struggle like I saw my family struggle. And so having these two separate conversations, and then because when I coach with couples, they're both present, and so for the husband to hear the wife's journey and then the wife to hear the husband's journey, there was this kind of like, oh, now I know why we're opposite on this, right? Because
Mm.
in the moment, they're using language like, well, this is important, but no one had got to the why. And in the coaching session, we just kind of peel back the layers. Well, what happens if you don't fund education? Well, what happens if you don't fund retirement? Well,
Mm.
what happens if you do accomplish this? How does that affect this? And what would that feel like for you, right? And so now they're really kind of peeling back some of the emotional ties that they have around the goal. And I saw that they each had a greater awareness for the other person and a greater sensitivity to understanding, okay, now I know why that's important to you.
Mm.
And then my role then as kind of the outside person with no emotional attachment to the decision, now I get to say, well, what would it look like to do both? And
Mm.
then we have this beautiful conversation of, okay, well, we can put this percentage toward kids' education and this percentage toward retirement. And then if we get a refund on our taxes, then we'll separate it this way. Now it was a working together toward the goal, even though at the beginning it felt like all or nothing. Well, this is important and that's important. But the coaching, pulling it out of the numbers, right?
Mhm.
And really just bringing it to the mindset and figuring out and helping the clients have this open space where they could kind of talk about the multiple layers around this financial, if you will, financial decision that really was an emotional decision, and then helping them find a space where they could come together and work toward a common goal.
I love this example so much, Brandy, because I see on LinkedIn all the time financial advisors posting about, you want to save for your kids' college, but here's why you should save for retirement first. You can, borrow for college, you can't borrow for retirement. All these logical arguments, right? And
Mhm.
they make complete sense. But when you're sitting at home and you're on your little money date with your husband and you're thinking about the future, that logic kind of goes out the window. It is very emotional. And so I love kind of the nuances of you hearing each side, giving them space to understand each other so that they can get on the same page going forward. And I also love that it doesn't have to be one or the other, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's where we as financial professionals sometimes can do a disservice to our clients because exactly what you said. We have the education, we have the numbers, and we have the logic. And so if we bring only those three to a client engagement, we could miss out on what the client truly values.
Mm.
I had another client, this was early on, she was single, and she was like, I have to go to school and get another degree because this is what I'm supposed to do. And then during the course of the coaching, she didn't even really want to go to school. She didn't know what she wanted to study if she were to go to school. And realizing that this was something that was kind of projected on her by her family.
Mhm.
And just having the conversation. One of the things I love about coaching is I do not come with any preconceived bias or any preconceived outcome. I literally get the joy of listening to people talk and just being curious. Well, you mentioned this.
Mm,
What would happen if you didn't do that, right?
mm, mhm,
Sometimes we don't even ask the question, what would happen if you didn't get the goal?
mm.
And often we assume the sky's going to fall down.
Right, right.
and so, and so when I see a client kind of wrestle with that, they realize, wait, it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't do that thing right now. And so it's just a delight. But I think to earlier when we talked about having a coach as part of a financial planning firm, now you have an additional resource to help the client when they're stuck, right? So I have
Right.
friends who are financial planners, and one of their challenges is, what do you do when the client doesn't stick to the financial plan? We've already mapped this out. We've already discussed why this is important. And you said you agree, client.
Yeah.
And then yet we meet again and it's like, you haven't made the increase to your 401k. What
Right.
happened?
Right.
Well, this is where having that coach in house, instead of trying to find a resource, having the coach in house, you can say, hey, I'd like for you to talk with, let's say, Brandy, for example, and let's figure out what's going on, or let's have a chat around this particular thing. Maybe there's something else associated with this that we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah. I think that's so smart. And I mean, I've been that client before with my financial advisor, where we're like, okay, we're going to increase contributions by this amount. And then 3 months go by and, we come back to our meeting. Well, this happened and this happened and this happened. And I needed someone to kind of dig in with me and say like, okay, what's going on?
Mhm.
And I think that's so valuable. So can we talk about, I mean, you've shared some really great examples before or already, but can we talk about maybe any additional psychological barriers that you see when financial professionals are trying to help their clients do something with their money and yet things just aren't happening? Now we're going to take a teeny tiny break to hear from our sponsors. Creating content as a financial professional can feel pretty isolating. You're wondering if your LinkedIn posts actually matter, if anyone's listening to your podcast, or if you're even talking about the right things to attract ideal clients. Now, most content and marketing events are either too general or too focused on traditional marketing tactics that don't work for finance professionals who have to be careful about making promissory statements or giving blanket advice. FinCon is different. It's packed with financial advisors and coaches who have figured out the content game and are genuinely excited to share what's working. There's no gatekeeping, there's no generic marketing advice, just real strategies from people who understand compliance, client confidentiality, and how to build trust through content. I'm heading to FinCon 2025 in Portland this September 10th through 12th. If you're tired of figuring out content creation alone, come find your people. And hey, we at Moneta Copy will have a booth in FinCon Central this year. I would love to meet you face to face and talk shop. Use the code Moneta25 to get $25 off a creator pass. Visit finconexpo.com to grab your pass today. Oh, hey, I am a sponsor of my own podcast, and the thing that I am sponsoring just happens to be free. It's my 7-day email list growth sprint designed for advisors who are tired of posting into the void and want to actually grow their email lists with qualified leads so that you can make your email list your next best source of new clients. 7 days, 10 minutes per day, super actionable tactics that work. How do I know they work? Because they're the tactics I use to grow my own email list. And they're exactly what I did to grow my email list by over 50 subscribers organically in just 30 days. Plus, you'll get exclusive access to my custom GPT lead magnet lab that generates compliance-aware lead magnet ideas specifically for financial professionals so that you can take your email list growth strategies to the next level. There is literally nothing else like it in our industry. So if you're ready to stop hoping that people will find you and start actively building your community, join the sprint at monetacopy.com/email sprint or find the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, so I wrote a book, Hillary, called The Story of the Three Little Divas. Reach your money goals in 3 steps before you huff, puff, and blow your next paycheck away.
I've heard of
And-
your book, Brandy.
Have you?
I've heard of it. I had no idea that was you that wrote it. I have not read it yet, but I'm going to now.
Yeah, so it's an easy read. It's actually a mini workbook that's designed to help the reader identify her money personality.
Mm,
And so I don't give the divas names because I want every reader to identify with whichever diva personality. The reason I bring that up is because one of my diva characters loves name brand labels.
mm,
And I think, to your point, one of the barriers that we don't often speak about is societal pressure.
mm,
And that societal pressure, often called keeping up with the Joneses. And in this day and age of social media and instant everything, and I can, order it and have it delivered the next day, I think people have subtly fallen into this trap of pressure to keep up, to
mhm,
keep up. And so if I have a financial plan, that's so far into my future, right? And so it can appear like, oh, 20 years from now, I'll be fine. Today, I need X, Y, and Z.
mm,
Tomorrow, my kid needs this, that, and the other. We have to keep up with the societal pressure, the latest, the greatest, the newest, the fastest. Not realizing that incrementally we're tearing down the walls, we're tearing down the bridge to our future.
mm,
And so I think as financial professionals, if we could somehow figure out how to get people to just be comfortable, to
mhm,
be satisfied, to be content. And this is where, as a financial coach, working with a coach, the client can then have a conversation. And during this discovery, that's one of the things I love about being a coach, the discovery. So we unpack, what are these things bringing to you? How are these things serving you?
mm,
And more importantly, what is it about these things that make you feel that once you have them, you're going to be satisfied? And we all know more often than not, you're not satisfied.
mm,
And so during a coaching session, you can kind of chat with the person and find out, well, if the goal of retirement is important to you, how does shopping at the designer label store support that?
mm,
And that's
mhm,
one of my go-to questions.
mm,
So we said that this was important. How does this behavior help us get there faster? And the
mm.
client's like, oh man,
It doesn't.
it doesn't. But then I don't have to be the bad guy.
Right.
I just really create a space where the client has to reconcile that in their mind. And for
Mm,
some people, they're like, I'm not worried about it. And I'm like, okay, let's now have the conversation. What does it look like to not worry about it?
mm,
And all of this is driving the client down a road of their own making, and with their own space, and without me telling them what's right or what's wrong. And so I
right.
think as financial professionals, we sometimes forget that there's this pressure that people are experiencing when they leave our offices or our meetings, and everything in our nice little financial world, that they're in our presence, it feels great and they believe it and they want it and they're excited. And then they leave the cocoon of our meeting, and then all of this other noise kind of fills their world, and they're not supported, and they don't
Right.
have the same thing that they had when they were in our meeting. So that was one thing that I would kind of think about as financial professionals that we should be aware of, that can hinder clients from accomplishing the things on their financial plan.
I just love the phrase that you used. You help them through this process of discovery. Because I think when they are discovering it for themselves, they're more likely to take it to heart and to really reflect on it and do some work with it rather than just being told something and then looking at you as the bad guy who's telling me I can't spend on my favorite designer labels anymore. Right.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I learned that from my own journey,
Mm.
because I have a relationship with the brown boxes and the smile on the box. We all know what I'm talking about. And so I realized, okay, Brandy, you cannot be a hypocrite and tell clients that they need to stop doing that, and you're doing
Mm.
it too.
Mm.
So just kind of working with my own coach, I realized, I like the instant gratification of it. I like that I can
Mhm.
click and it's there within 24 hours.
Mhm.
And so we had to put a plan in place. And so when I meet with my clients and that pops up as something that they're wanting to change, I have a sensitivity for that.
Right.
But I also realized when I work with my coach, she gave me the space to figure out my solution. She didn't
Mm.
tell me, Brandy, stop shopping.
Mhm.
Stop, because we all knew I wasn't going to, right?
Right.
And so let's address the obvious. Some of this you're just not going to do. That's okay. Let's figure out what your motivation is for doing it, and how can we make this choice make sense in the overarching plan that you say is important to you? Or do we need to adjust the plan?
Mhm. I really like that, and I also my husband and I made the decision 2 months ago to cancel the brown box subscription to see if that would help curb, and it has. It has helped curbed it so much just by, you know, not having the subscription. It's not gonna come tomorrow, I have to wait a week for it. Nah, I don't think I
And
need
pay
it.
shipping.
Yeah, and pay shipping for it. Yeah, right. So that's been a game changer. But so, yes, what I wanted to circle back to was if they're not willing to give something up or to dig into something or to change something right now, that's totally valid. But then showing them how that might affect this other goal down the future, at least they're prepared, right? At least they know,
Right.
okay, if I'm not going to make a change to this right now, I'm going to have to make a change to this vision somewhere in the future. And I think just giving somebody that clarity or the ability to weigh those choices is just
Absolutely.
invaluable.
And this is where that relationship of a financial planner and a financial coach come together beautifully, because I can show you mathematically, okay, here's what maybe the next year will look like, and maybe even out to 3 to 5 years. But my colleagues who are financial planners, they can show you the impact of this on your retirement.
Mhm.
And that's a different conversation, right? It's a different conversation to say, oh, if you don't give up this thing, or if you don't make this adjustment, or if you decide to keep spending in this way, here's what that will look like for your savings account. Okay, got it. Here's what that will look like for, your ability to put money in toward college. Okay, got it. But when I say, here's what that could look like 10 to 20 years from now, numerically, that is a different conversation. And
Mhm.
that's where I think the harmony of a planner and a coach in the same firm can really serve clients well, because now it pulls it out of the space of the present and catapults it right into the future in a way that a lot of people are not thinking about that synergy. So the planner tends to spend this space in the future.
Mhm.
Let's get you prepared for that future. Whereas the coach can spend the space in the present. But when you bring the two of them together, you've given this client a holistic approach to managing their money. They can see the one to one. What I'm doing today has a direct impact on tomorrow.
Mhm. I love that. Well, we've talked about, you know, when advisors and coaches work in the same firm, which is beautiful, but not every advisor and not every coach wants to work in the same firm. So, what are some other ways that advisors and coaches and counselors can really bring themselves together to support their clients?
Yeah, so my good friend Katie, she started this model, she and I, a few years ago, and it has been beautiful. She has like her top 3 to 5 financial coaches. And whenever she's working with the client, whether they are ready to work with her at the beginning or if she knows that they need additional support,
Mm.
she'll send them a message and say, based on our conversation, I think you would be best served by a money coach. Here are my top 3 recommendations. Please reach
Mm.
out to one of them and they will take good care of you. These are people that she has vetted, that she knows well, and she knows that they're going to deliver the same quality of service that she would deliver for her clients.
Mm.
I have reached out or have received emails and been contacted by several of her clients. And the beauty of it is they know that they're working with me independent of Katie. And
Mhm.
so once they're done working with me or once they're done working with her, the relationships are still separate. So if they want to continue working with me, great. If they want to just work with me for one piece and then continue working with Katie, great, because it's a separate relationship. So that's
Mm.
a good way to just kind of foster that, connect with some coaches and counselors. AFCPE on their website has Find an AFC. So
Mm.
then if you're a financial planner, you can find an accredited financial counselor who not only has education, experience, and a fiduciary responsibility, but we also adhere to a code of ethics. So if you're like, I don't know who to partner with, that's a great place to get started for trusted financial professionals. The other way that I have seen financial planners connect with financial coaches and vice versa is through like kind of what I like to call like phase one, phase two. So maybe you have a financial coach who helps with onboarding your clients, right? And so you can bring on a financial coach or counselor as a subcontractor. And
Mm.
then that person does your client intake, some of the initial money mindset stuff, and then it's just a seamless transition right to working with the financial planner. So the coach, although maybe an independent contractor, is doing the initial work, and then from the client stand, obviously it's just one seamless process. But on the back end, the coach and the planner, they're not in the same office, but they're providing the same service as far as the client is concerned. So one smooth operation right there. So those are the two models that I have seen work well.
I love that. I actually haven't heard of that second model that you mentioned, and I think that's genius. I mean, that just provides so much value to the client. Well, Brandy, as we start to wrap up, is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that we haven't touched on yet that you think is important to this conversation?
Well, I think it's important that we realize that financial professionals, whatever your credentials are or are not, we are not in competition with each other. I think the more often that we can find opportunities to work together, are ultimately our clients win.
Mm.
And most of the financial professionals, if not all that I've met, really have a heart for serving clients. And so I think that the more creative ways we can work together, whether therapists, planners, coaches, counselors, educators, the more we can work together in ways that make sense, then the better we can serve our clients. And honestly, Hillary, there's so much happening in our world, not just locally, nationally, but even globally, that more and more people will need expertise of financial professionals. And the sooner we are able to make our services available and accessible to them, I think the sooner able we can be what I like to think of as good stewards, if you will, of our knowledge and our resources and our skills and our abilities.
Oh, I love that so much, Brandy. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
Oh, the best way is LinkedIn, and it's Brandy with a Y. So that I always want to make sure to add that. Yeah, the best way to reach me is find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Well, I'll link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this great information with us on today's episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Hillary. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.